Hello, and welcome back to Fem Life. If you'd like to support me, please use my affiliate links mentioned below. Every purchase you make will bring me closer to my gender transition. By the time they reached the hotel, Bluto had completed her transformation. She had lost nearly a foot in height and had to roll up her trousers. Though she still towered over most men and women, her muscles were less pronounced, though she claimed not to feel weaker. Her shirt strained against her ample bosom, and the buttons looked ready to pop. Her hips and derriere were threatening to tear the seat of her trousers if she bent over. It was quite a sight to see the giant woman in men's clothing. Emma knew they needed to do some emergency shopping, but first, she had to check in at the hotel desk to see if Nathan had left any messages. The clerk informed her there were none. That's surprising. I would have expected Nathan to leave some sort of message, Emma said with a frown. Nathan will show up eventually, probably having most of the case figured out by then. I just wish it were him who'd ended up as the girl and not me, Bluto said, eyeing her chest as it moved with each step she took. Well, let's find you something more appropriate to wear. What, like your outfit? No, these were custom-made, and finding someone to make a similar one for you would take too long. I'm afraid you'll have to settle for a skirt and blouse. They're more readily available in your size. Bluto's eyes widened. I have to wear a skirt? The people in the hotel lobby paused, staring at the unusual pair. You're drawing too much attention, which is the last thing we need right now. Besides, trying to fight in that outfit will be a regrettable decision. Just then, a distinct ripping sound echoed through the lobby. Bluto's eyes widened again, her face flushed as her hands rushed to cover the back of her trousers. Emma suppressed a giggle. Oh dear, did you just... Bluto interrupted. Skirt and blouse it is, and make it quick. Emma quickly led Bluto to local shops with suitable skirts and blouses. They also needed to shop for undergarments, which was another pressing issue. The shopkeeper was taken aback by Bluto's size. I usually cater to extremely overweight women, but this is... Bluto towered over him. Are you saying I look fat in this? Sweat beaded on the shopkeeper's forehead. No, 1,000 times no, my dear lady. I meant no offense. I've never seen a woman with such a physically defined body in my life. I swear it's the truth. Emma nudged Bluto and smiled. I think he's flirting with you, darling. The shopkeeper nearly fainted. Please, I'll give you the clothes at cost. I apologize for any misunderstanding. Bluto was taken aback as Emma responded. Well, that's more than fair. Apology accepted, and I know my friend Samantha would like to thank you. Emma poked Bluto in the ribs. Yes, what she said. I mean, Hillary wishes to thank you. As they left the shop, Bluto leaned in and whispered to Emma. Samantha? Emma grinned. It was the only name I could think of. Besides, you can't be wearing women's clothing and still go by Bluto, can you? Bluto, now Samantha, grumbled. Fine, but I'm calling you Lizzie from now on. Emma giggled. Fine, but we still need to find you some suitable shoes, Samantha. Just as Samantha was about to complain, 3 Arab men surrounded them. Samantha quickly moved Emma behind her and assumed a fighting stance. That's close enough. State your business or prepare to fight. Samantha growled. The men stopped, looking astonished at the bold challenge. One of them slowly approached with a raised hand. We bring news from Nathan Springer. Samantha's eyes widened. What have you done with him? Tell me now, or I swear I'll break every bone in your bodies. The man who spoke took a step back, looking visibly frightened. Your friend is safe and well. In fact, we're here to reunite him with you. Samantha glared at the man. You mean as prisoners? Nathan mentioned that someone might doubt our intentions. He said to let you know that he'll give you his teddy bear if you promise to behave. Samantha's face softened, and a grin spread across her face. Well, that's a different story. Lead on, gentlemen. Emma was taken aback and whispered to Samantha. What just happened, and what's this teddy bear business about? Before Samantha could respond, the man spoke again. So, you're Emma Peterson, and you're Bluto Jones? Yes, it's a long story. The man interrupted. You've been attacked by ancient forces beyond your imagination. Guardians transformed Miss Jones, just as they did with you, Miss Peterson. Emma looked both amazed and embarrassed. I apparently underestimated how complicated this would be to explain. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Tarek, and these are Jared and Masood. We belong to a secret cult dedicated to protecting against the evil you've awakened. Tarek raised his hand to quell any protests from Emma. We understand you were merely following your instincts as an archaeologist. You had no idea that breaking the ancient seals of Imhotep's tomb would unleash an apocalyptic evil. Apocalyptic? This case just keeps getting worse, Samantha grumbled. The group fell silent as they continued through the bustling streets and narrow alleyways. Night fell, but their path seemed endless. They moved north, then turned south, always avoiding the same streets they had traversed. It was peculiar, as the men didn't appear lost, but rather as if they were following a specific route. Emma's feet ached, and she was exhausted, but Samantha, despite the transformation, had boundless energy and offered support. Eventually, they stopped in front of a small tent among many others located a few miles outside the city. Tarek entered the tent and stayed inside for several minutes. After what felt like an eternity, he emerged and walked towards the women. You may enter now. That tiny thing? Lizzie might fit, but I'm a different story altogether, Samantha remarked. Tarek smiled. Appearances can be deceiving. Go inside and see for yourself. The two women exchanged a glance and decided to enter the tent. To their astonishment, they found themselves in a grand hall with a large round oak table, finely crafted chairs, and a granite fireplace. Tapestries and paintings adorned the walls, making it look more like a European mansion than a simple tent. Nathan was tending the fireplace and didn't turn around immediately. Well, Bluto, I guess I owe you a teddy bear. He turned to face them. And I'll arrange a meeting with President Roosevelt? I'm holding you to that promise, Nathan. I've already done more than I signed up for with this case, Samantha said. Emma, puzzled, asked, what's with the teddy bear and President Roosevelt? I asked Samantha about this earlier, but all she gave me was that silly grin. Nathan took a moment to collect his thoughts. He hadn't expected to see his friend and partner transformed into a woman, albeit a very large one, but he focused on answering Emma's question. In 1906, I was involved in thwarting an assassination attempt on President Roosevelt. While he was deeply grateful, the incident needed to remain confidential. All I received was a handshake and a teddy bear, Nathan explained. Bluto missed out on that assignment, but he's always wanted his own teddy bear and a chance to meet the president. Roosevelt has always been his idol. The man was a legend, a real man's man, just like me, Samantha added. I hate to break it to you, Samantha, but you're not the man you used to be, Emma pointed out. Yes, what's the deal with that name, Samantha? Nathan asked. I'm now a girl, and my name is Samantha. I was transformed by some magical statues. If you're not careful, you might end up joining us girls, Samantha replied. Nathan nodded. I'll keep that in mind. Given the strange occurrences since we arrived, I suppose I shouldn't question anything anymore. I guess from now on, it's Samantha. By the way, who came up with that name? I did, and it's a fine name, Emma huffed. Nathan raised a hand. No offense meant. My mother's name was Samantha, and I think it's a great name. Emma's face turned red with embarrassment. I'm sorry for that, then. Samantha glanced around the room. So, how did you end up with these people? They sort of found me, Nathan said, settling into a chair at the table. The others followed suit. After I left you two, I poked around the local underground, trying to find any leads. Initially, I hit dead ends, but then I noticed a pattern. Men were disappearing, nothing unusual about that in itself. But the fact that these men came from all walks of life, and that these disappearances started just after your discovery went missing, was suspicious. The local constables must have suspected I was onto something because they began tailing me. They would have detained me for questioning if it weren't for our host's intervention. Do they know where the treasure is and who took it? Emma asked. Yes, I believe they know where the treasure is. As for who took it, I don't think you'll like the answer. What? I've traveled all the way to London and back to retrieve what I rightfully discovered. If you think I'm going to stop now, you're completely mad. Emma snapped. Hasn't it occurred to you that we're not dealing with ordinary criminals? We've stumbled into something far beyond rational understanding. You and Bluto have turned into women, there are living statues running around, and this tiny tent is a grand mansion. If you'd told me any of this before today, I'd have thought you were insane. Emma looked down. So, if you didn't believe my story when I first told it, why did you take the job? Why follow me to Egypt? Samantha shuffled her feet. Well, you had a bag full of gold coins. Nathan added, and it was possible you were involved in something illegal, like fencing stolen goods. The room fell silent for a moment. Emma's face grew pale, and she looked as though she might cry. I assume our hosts will provide all the details tomorrow morning? Samantha attempted to place a comforting hand on Emma's shoulder, but she shrugged it off. Lizzie, don't be like that. It's our job to be cautious of everyone. It's not personal, you have to understand. I'm extremely tired. All I want right now is a comfortable bed. I suggest you both do the same, or perhaps you'd like to take turns watching my room to make sure I don't do anything suspicious, Emma said coldly before walking off in search of a room. Samantha shot Nathan a disapproving look. You just had to accuse her of being a criminal, didn't you? She asked an honest question, and I gave an honest answer. Besides, you know as well as I do that everyone is a suspect, especially when they come up with stories as fantastic as hers. Yes, but we've seen things that prove otherwise. I had to fight giant cat women made of gold, and they turned me into a woman. Believe me, I'm a believer now. I've got a huge bosom and lost my manhood, and what's replaced it is driving me crazy, but that's a different issue altogether. Thanks for not going into details, Nathan said, looking somewhat relieved. Don't interrupt me when I'm ranting, Samantha said, adjusting her chest. Nathan tried not to look but couldn't help himself. The point is, I understand what that poor girl is going through because I'm living it now. What she needs most right now is support from those around her. Well, my original point was that we're dealing with supernatural forces here. That treasure is part of that magic, and I have a feeling claiming it won't be straightforward. At this point, I'd be content just to have my old self back, Samantha said. That might not be so easy to achieve either, Nathan replied. The next morning, each of them found their personal belongings restored. Samantha even discovered some boots that fit her, though they had subtle high heels that enhanced her shape and gait. Nathan and Emma noticed her new stride but chose not to comment, wary of possible repercussions. Emma and Nathan avoided discussing the topic altogether. She wanted nothing to do with him, and he didn't want to provoke further conflict. After breakfast, they were summoned to the hall from the previous night. Several men in white robes were already seated around the table, and the trio was guided to 3 empty seats. The eldest man stood and addressed them. I am Bakery, leader of my people. For untold generations, we have guarded the world from the great evil hidden in the cave you discovered. Bakery pointed to Emma. Long ago, during the 18th dynasty, Pharaoh Seti III ruled Egypt and it flourished. He and his wife, Queen Tai, had 4 daughters and 2 sons. When it was time for a successor, Tutmosis, the second male, was expected to become pharaoh. However, he died in battle, and Seti IV assumed the throne. He was an ill-chosen ruler, having never been prepared for leadership. His unconventional ideas about governance ultimately led to his downfall. Must have been quite an outcast to skip the traditional succession. The second-born rarely bypasses the chain of command, Emma mused. Yes, indeed. Seti IV set himself apart by ordering the removal of all gods except Aten from the temples. No more worship or idols of other gods. The people, unable to defy a pharaoh, even a heretic, secretly continued to pray to their gods. In response, the gods struck down the heretic and her followers. Since Seti IV already had a somewhat feminine appearance, the gods transformed him into a complete woman. They then turned his closest advisors into golden statues, part cat and part woman. These statues were destined to guard the pharaoh's tomb for eternity and transform anyone who disturbed the sacred site. Seti IV was entombed alive, forever barred from reaching the afterlife with the gods he had rejected. That's quite a tough situation, but what happens next? And more importantly, how do we, get back to normal? Samantha asked. Malik replied slowly, you are bound by Seti IV's curse, so you will live out your life as a woman. The same applies to Miss Peterson, but she bears an additional burden. What additional burden? Emma asked. You are responsible for breaking the seals, and thus, you are tasked with rectifying the situation. You must confront Seti IV and strip her of her powers. If you fail, she will break her own curse and revert to a male form. He will then marry you as his queen and curse the world, transforming all men into women. Excuse me, but how exactly am I supposed to confront this monstrous mummy? Challenge it to a game of rugby? Emma scoffed. Malik looked momentarily puzzled, then produced an amulet from his robe and handed it to Emma. Wear this. It possesses great powers for those who are chosen. It's said to have belonged to the goddess Isis. With this, you will be able to defeat Seti IV. Emma hesitated. I'm not sure about this. What if I'm not worthy? I've never felt worthy of anything in my life, so why should this be any different? Malik smiled. Put it on and see for yourself. Emma donned the amulet, and everyone in the room watched intently. At first, it seemed like another failure, but as she was about to take it off, she began to glow with a soft white light that enveloped her. Malik nodded. You are chosen by Isis for this battle. Seti IV must have sensed the power within you, or she wouldn't have tried to make you her bride. Remember, as long as you wear this amulet, no mortal can harm you, magic against you will be ineffective, and you will be able to defeat the heretic. Can I try it? Samantha asked. The amulet has never worked for anyone other than the chosen one in recorded history. You may wear it, but it will only function for the one it selects, Malik explained. I wish I had superpowers. Samantha grumbled. Nathan chuckled. You're already stronger than any woman alive, and that might still be true for any man. Yeah, I guess you're right, Samantha said with a grin. The plan was to locate Seti IV's camp. Emma seemed naturally drawn to the mummy, guiding them with a magnetic confidence. The others followed, less sure of themselves. They traversed several miles of barren desert until they arrived at an encampment housing hundreds of women. Among them were the Golden Cat women, encircling what appeared to be a living mummy, unlike any they had seen before. This mummy was animated, issuing orders with a menacing presence. Emma sensed its growing power, realizing that her own freedom was slipping away with each moment. Every transformed man, every trace of her former self, brought her closer to regaining her human form. How do we deal with all these women? There must be hundreds out there, and it's just us plus a few from the cult, Samantha said, her frustration evident. We don't need to confront those women, they aren't part of this battle, Emma replied calmly. And how do you figure that? Nathan asked. It's simple, Nathan. Those women are under the control of the evil mummy. I'll use my powers to free them, allowing them to choose their own path. Nathan grinned. So, they'll probably scatter when the action starts. So, what's our move? Samantha asked, her fists clenched. I think you're ready for a rematch with the Catwomen. Draw them away from Seti 4 as much as possible. That will give me a chance to face her directly, Emma said, turning to Nathan. You'll help guide the freed women to safety. No, Tarek and the others can handle that. I'm capable of fighting. I know you can fight, Nathan, Emma interrupted. Then let me join the battle instead of sidelining me. I didn't bring these fireworks just to leave them unused, Nathan said, displaying 2 sticks of dynamite. Emma sighed. All right, but I expect you to return in one piece. Do I make myself clear? Believe me, that's a top priority, Nathan assured. Make sure it is, because I don't want to be the one teaching you how to shop for women's clothing, Emma said with a smile. As Nathan and Samantha set off to create a diversion, Emma extended her arms and addressed the women below in a commanding voice. By the goddess Isis, I grant you your freedom. Flee this place now. An invisible wave of energy surged over the women. They paused in their tasks, understanding Emma's words not only vocally but also telepathically. Soon, they began to flee. Seti 4 tried to regain control over the escaping women but failed. As she prepared to direct her Catwomen into action, Samantha strolled into view. The Catwomen hissed and clawed at the air, 3 of them particularly furious at Samantha for reasons unknown. Samantha waved at the 3 Catwomen who clearly had it out for her before shifting her gaze to the mummy. So, you're the big bad responsible for taking away my manhood? You don't look all that intimidating, and as for those golden kitties? I'll turn them into coins and laugh all the way to the bank. You dare insult me? I am Pharaoh, destined to rule the world. You will end up as nothing but scattered bones in this desert. Seti 4 thundered. Samantha scratched her head in confusion. You speak English? Foolish one, anyone transformed can understand me and my minions. It's easier than teaching servants my native tongue, Seti 4 replied, gesturing to her Catwomen who sprang into action, swiftly pursuing Samantha while the mummy lounged on her throne. Nathan crouched behind a sand dune, waiting for Samantha to lure the enemy closer. He held the 2 sticks of dynamite he'd shown Emma. Timing was crucial, lighting the fuses too early would force him to throw them away from Samantha, too late and they wouldn't do the job. Hey! Keep up back there! I don't want to lose any of my precious gold. Samantha shouted as she sped past Nathan's hiding spot. Now or never, Nathan thought as he ignited the fuses, waiting for the 5 statues to come into view. He stood up and yelled, Hey, you! Yeah, you lot, and hurled the sticks of dynamite. 2 Catwomen caught the sticks while the others gathered around, puzzled by the objects. Early Merry Christmas for me, and no New Year for you. Nathan shouted, sprinting away from the blast. The Catwomen examined the lit fuses with curiosity, waving them around playfully for a few seconds before the tremendous explosion scattered them into gold nuggets in a deep sand crater. Nathan returned with a bag, soon joined by Samantha, who also carried a large empty bag. We finally get some treasure. This almost makes up for losing my manhood, Samantha said. Well, take my bag and finish up, Nathan said, preparing to leave. And what are you going to do? Samantha asked. Help Emma, of course, Nathan replied, dashing off. Samantha shook her head. Well, maybe Lizzie can keep him out of trouble and still save the world. She glanced at the desert strewn with gold nuggets. Oh well, come to Mama, kitties. Emma faced Seti 4, who was surrounded by her earthly treasures. Rising from her throne, the mummy pointed a skeletal finger at Emma. You are the cause of my suffering. I sense the magic within you. Isis will not imprison me again. Emma advanced towards the mummy. You've lost your followers, your golden guards, and now you will lose your freedom. Setifor raised her hand, gesturing imperiously. Bow before me. Emma felt an irresistible urge to obey. She collapsed to the ground, desperate to rise and act, but powerless to do so. I will reclaim my followers, retake Egypt, and the world will follow. I will not be dominated by weak gods. I will demonstrate my superiority by subjugating you and the power you wield. You will be my bride and ruled by my side for eternity, never aging or falling ill, except to my commands. This will mark the dawn of a new era. I will not follow you, nor will I marry a monstrosity like you. Emma retorted. Stand and surrender your amulet, Setifor commanded. Emma began to rise and offer the amulet, but at that moment, Nathan Springer burst in. Stay away from her, you wretched creature. Nathan shouted. Setifor sneered. Remain still, my future queen, I must deal with this interruption. The mummy turned to Nathan and pointed at him. You will become my personal servant. I will silence your sharp tongue and erase your mind, leaving you only with thoughts of how to please me. I want to relish your suffering as your transformation begins. As Setifor began her spell, Emma intervened. You will cause no more harm. The mummy, surprised by Emma's challenge, demanded, Be silent and stay where you are while I handle this pest. Emma defied the command, radiating a brilliant light. You have no power left. From this day forward, you are banished to live as a stone statue. You will speak no more, eat no more, and move not at all. Setifor attempted to advance, but found her limbs and body returning to a lifeless state. No! I am Pharaoh. I rule the world. The mummy's cries were cut off as her body stiffened and she fell to the ground. A purple glowing sphere hovered above the scene, flew towards the stone statue of Setifor, and merged with it. The statue glowed briefly before returning to silence. Emma returned to her normal self and rushed towards Nathan, who was visibly astonished by what he had just witnessed. As she approached, he greeted her with a warm smile, and they shared a long, heartfelt hug. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. I thought I made it clear that I didn't want you turning into a girl. What were you thinking? Nathan chuckled. I was saving your life. Emma playfully tapped Nathan with her fist. I didn't need saving. Besides, I was the one who saved you. Then we saved each other, Nathan suggested, adding softly, I know you used to be Stanley Peterson, but to me, you'll always be Emma. I can't imagine you any other way. Emma blushed. Honestly, the longer I stay this way, the more I get used to it. At first, being trapped as a woman was tormenting, but now? But now? Nathan asked. Emma smiled and giggled. Let's take things slowly and see where life's journey leads us. After all, a girl doesn't like to be rushed. Emma Peterson received credit for the archaeological discovery of Seti. All artifacts were sent to a museum, except for the pharaoh's stone statue, which was moved to a secret location for safekeeping. Despite being offered a position to study the artifacts, Emma declined and chose to join Nathan and Samantha in solving crimes around the world. She kept the amulet, which proved useful in several tight situations. Nathan Springer continued his courtship of Emma. The two seemed inseparable, and perhaps in the future, they might even settle down and have children, though that was far from their current thoughts, at least for Nathan. Samantha Jones gained popularity among women needing help. Men who mistreated women learned to watch their backs, as Samantha had a knack for setting things right. She continued working on cases with Nathan and Emma, enjoying herself along the way. Some men at local pubs were initially wary of her, but soon treated her like one of the boys. Samantha also received Nathan's teddy bear and had the chance to meet President Roosevelt, who was impressed by her presence, and she was equally impressed with him.